Welcome everybody tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about gold detecting micro level. It's another topic you guys brought up on the HQ. I'll be going over there in a second to take you to the tour, but we're going to talk about micro level gold detecting. Last week we talked a little bit about metal detecting on the extreme side of things. This week we're going to go to the other side and talk about micro detecting, something that could find gold inside a rock that you might not even be able to hardly see. Okay, it's typically still big enough to be able to see, but head of a pin comes to mind. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the pros and cons of different detector sizes. That's what we're into tonight. What we're going to talk about tonight, we've talked about in the past, MD20, but not just the MD20. I can make recommendations on that, but I'm going to talk more generic. I'm going to talk about pinpointers in general. These are small detectors, the size of, a size in your hand. It's not the size of a pin, but it pinpoints. That's the point of the thing. Okay, so the idea here is, how do these things work, and why would you have one of those when you can have the big guns? Okay, so hang on. Let's get ready for tonight's discussion. I'm going to take you over to the whiteboard first, just because I can. So get ready. Here we go. Okay, so this is my layout for the night. I'm going to show you a little bit of kind of what we're talking about on the whiteboard, and then I'm going to take you for a tour of equipment, a little show and tell. So the big guns, a full-size detector comes to mind when you're trying to find stuff that's deep and rather large. Okay, so we're talking nuggets here primarily. Okay, nugget 1T. Okay, so spell checkers are not allowed on the HQ. I understand. Somebody said that. Okay, neither is a grammar checker. Okay, and I think that's a good rule. So now the opposite pole of things, the versus here in the whole equation, is a pinpointer. What is a pinpointer? Well, a pinpointer, just to kind of show you an example here, I'm going to take this bullseye. This is a White's no longer exists as a company. Actually, they got bought up, but this is a White's bullseye, okay, pinpointer, and you would use this not so much looking for this big nugget yards down, but looking for this little guy in the specimen you're looking at right now, or in the hole you're digging. You're trying to find out which direction the hole should go. This will pinpoint the direction. So this is more kind of a vector for a larger nugget, or possibly being able, if it's a sensitive one, being able to locate a smaller piece of gold in a direction that's close to the pointer. The problem I've had with this particular one is it wasn't sensitive enough, and it was kind of prone to being thrown off by trash and that kind of stuff. It doesn't have much in the way of an adjustment for anything other than sensitivity. It doesn't allow you to squelch out the noise from iron and other aluminum particles, things like that. And that becomes a problem when you're looking to figure out what direction you want the hole to go when you're sampling. You see the deal? And so this kind of pointer allows you to quickly locate gold in a region where it's really small particles of gold, but they're close to the surface. Okay, so it's nearby, and it's small gold to large. It obviously can find a large chunk of gold if it were next to it, because it can, but its primary purpose is to be able to kind of locate gold nearby. Okay, this one is obviously large to medium sized and farther. So it's able to locate this stuff farther away, deeper in the hole, or over here underneath, back in inside of a rock. Both of these can detect inside of a rock. That's the way electrical impulses work, electromagnetic impulses. The problem is that the rock is very conductive, i.e. it contains a fair amount of iron or ferric kind of material. Throws it off. Can't do so well there because it's a noisy environment and the signal noise gets trashed. That's where one of the other differences comes in. Of course, a bigger detector, let me show you the big gun. Okay, So here's my GP3000. It's an antique, okay? But it's, as you can see, it's been out in the field a bit. And you know, the idea with one of these is you saddle up, you wear your harness and all that good stuff, and you have your headphones and plugged in, and you're basically able to sweep large areas deep for gold. Remember, you're looking into not the surface for gold, you're looking into the volume below the surface. And of course, the coil size and the energy the power box can produce determines how deeply and how well it can detect the return signal, determines just how deep we can go. And so the idea here is this guy goes small, this guy is able to go deep. And so, you know, we're looking at something down here. That's quite a bit further than something just inside of a rock or just underneath the surface or near where you're digging your hole. That's the primary difference between pinpointers and full-size detectors. Now, of course, full-size detector is in the eye of the beholder. I've seen bigger ones than this. You know, when you get into the business of doing this mineralogy in the field, you get all kinds of different detection systems, and you can have systems that are on the back of a big, huge, you know, 3/4 ton or larger, you know, a deuce and a half kind of thing, hauling that out in the field with cables and stuff to, you know, who knows, kingdom come. Okay, the idea is it just depends on what you're looking for and how deep you're going to go and how big or broad this thing is. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Or you can tow it behind an airplane. That's another kind of, you know, magnetometer. Okay, so all these things are doing essentially is setting out a pulse, listening for the return signal, and amplifying it in such a way and cleaning it up. That's where all the fancy stuff in the back comes in, tuning this stuff, which you typically don't have on the handheld pinpointer detector. You don't have all this tuning control and trash removal that you have here. In fact, frankly, that's part of why I like the GP3000. It's old school analog. And these tuning situations were actually pretty well designed. And there's actually guys who aftermarket will tune these up even further to get deeper and, you know, broader spectrum. The difference is, notice there's no digital readout. It's not a digital unit. It goes to your headset. You got to learn to discern the sound of gold from the sound of trash. You get pretty good at it after a while, but it takes practice. Dig every target, analyze what you dig. Dig every target, remember what it sounded like. That's what you want to be doing when you're using a bigger detector. So yes, I like the MD20. I like the idea of a pinpointer separate from a full-size detector. They're extremely useful for finding gold and pointing to where it is when you're sampling. It's also an extremely useful tool to work over old chispas, nugget piles, not nugget piles, but mining tailings piles, things like that, where there might be gold or it might just be a chunk of rock. A real quick way to find out is just pass one of these over. You got to move kind of gently because it doesn't have a very big target area. Bigger detector works better, but it won't find the small stuff as effectively. It won't find the little tiny pinpoint-sized particles. And that's why there's a difference between these two, as I pointed out up on the whiteboard. You know, the small things in terms of the little gun and the bigger nuggets and deeper big guns. So that's kind of tonight's discussion, gold detecting on a micro level. Take care. Good prospecting.